the things that we see as vital personality, I will call them personality traits of engaged leaders. And the first one that actually, and as you can see here, I'll let you guys see this handy acronym that I created, and it's traits, and it's their trustworthiness, they're respectful, they're advocates, they're emotionally intelligent, transparent, and also supportive. And we're going to break down a few of these in a little more detail, as we go further along. But let's just kind of talk about it. Trustworthy, just truly being honest. I have, and this is one, and I'll say this personally, this is one that I wish I had known when I was a new leader, because there was a fine line of trying to not only nurture the interest of the employee, but also nurture the interest of the company, and then somewhere letting yourself count as a part of that as well. So it's a fine three-legged stool in leadership that you actually have to balance. You truly have to, because you have a lot of moving parts to the entire equation, because you are expected as leaders, in any capacity, you're expected to provide results. That's usually for any for-profit, non-for-profit, not-for-profit, or however, you're expected to produce results. That's what you're expected to do. However, as a leader of people, you're actually you have a responsibility to lead. You have a responsibility to actually be of service to your employees. So it's a juggling act. And this is probably one of the ones that I wish I had known early on in my leadership role. The employees should feel like they have a safe space, that with you as their leader, they are free to be themselves, and they are free without judgment to have a safe space where they can air out their grievances, where they can, actually speak up when things aren't going right, and when they actually have issues within the organization. You should be that person. You are that middleman. And that's one of the most important things that make a true leader in most situations. Also, being respectful. Respect is not just a song from Aretha. We all need it. The RESPECT, the whole thing. We all need to feel not only valued but respected, because without respect, I'm truly little girl from Georgia, and the one thing I can remember is you treat other people like you want to be treated. You treat other people like you want to be treated. And that's the truth, especially in leadership. If you can think of your very worst leader, you would never, or you should never, want to inflict those same things onto the people that are under you or looking up to you to be led. You should never want to do that. So again, just being respectful of those people. Now, this one I think is my biggest sweet spot, is being an advocate. You have to advocate for your people. I can remember in my previous job, in my previous employment, my team called me Mama Bear. We'll laugh, but they call me Mama Bear because I advocated for them. If there was a way that I could have them avoid an extra email or an extra work process, or to actually avoid them attending a meeting that would take away from their time of production, and they really truly needed that time, I stood in the gap. I stood in the gap. If I had to praise one thing that I have ever done as a leader, it is truly to be an advocate. That was vitally important to me. Not just because I want to see everyone succeed, but I truly feel as being placed in a leadership role, and that's regardless of the organization, you have a responsibility. You have a responsibility. And a lot of people and a lot of leaders actually take that for granted. And I can truly say within myself that I didn't. I wanted to make their lives as easy as possible because I wanted to not demand them to do their job, but assist them and give them every resource available to do their job. And that netted results. That was important. Emotionally intelligent. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but as leaders, you have to be okay within your own personal emotions, your feelings. You have to have a presence to where you understand your triggers. You have to not necessarily and always take it personal, but you truly have to have the ability to be okay with you. Because any of those things, whether they're childhood traumas or anything such as that, that aren't dealt with within yourself, you're actually going to inflict those things upon your employees. And it's noticeable. Just by a show of hands, or just type in the chat for me, how many of you ever worked for an organization where you felt, I don't know, that you probably were more mature than your manager? Exactly. Exactly. Yes. And I see a lot of chats or comments are coming in. You truly felt that you were more mature than them. And it actually set out to where you were like, maybe I should be the leader, because you literally are able to handle this position. So again, not going to spend very much time on that one, but T. So we're talking about being transparent. And again, this is another one that resonated with me personally. Transparency, I think, ties hand in hand with being trustworthy. But there are some vital differences between the two. Letting your employee know the things that within the company that impact them directly. That's what I mean by transparency. Letting them know if the company is going to close, or let me get an example. Let's say the company is going to close next week, 2 weeks from now, and they're going to be laying off half of the workforce. Okay. But none of your employees are actually going to leave or are losing their jobs. But it's still very important that they know that half of the workforce is going to be gone. That's what I mean by transparency. When there are rumors that come about and they hear things, whether it's in the news or whether they hear things within the organization, being transparent actually gives them a sense of belonging. And it also gives them, again, that safe space. They feel safe in being able to come to you. They feel like you are going to be an advocate, again, for what's most important to them. Okay. So, and last but definitely not least, being supportive. Being able to be a support system for your employees is of the utmost importance. When they are at this organization or they're at work, most of us truly spend more time at work than we do at home. One of the things that as a leader or operating in a leadership role is to have that support. There is nothing like coming to your manager and saying, I feel overwhelmed. I feel overwhelmed. And your manager being able to say, I completely understand. What is it that I can do to support you in that? What is it that I can do as your leader or you being my direct report to support you in taking care of or eliminating that emotion? What is it that I can do? And also being able to provide them with some resources, things such as that, even in their home life. Now, I'm not saying as leaders, it's our responsibility to go over and take out the trash because the husband ain't take out the trash last night and the children misbehaving in school and, you know, we can't go to the PTA meeting for them, but we can at least be a sounding board. As a good leader, you can, because you have to realize that work and life, the balance between the two is of importance. You have to be able to relate to your people. They have to feel like they have that support system, even if they're not receiving it at home, to at least know that they are being supported. Okay. Now, you know, just want to take a just kind of gauge the room. Did any of these traits actually resonate with you more than others? If you could, in the chat box, just kind of tell me whether or not you can directly relate to some of those things. And even let's just go a little further. Let's talk about a person that you thought was your very best leadership model. The person that if you could work for them right now to this day, you would go back, no hands, no thought about it, without hesitation. Think about that leader. And when you think about that leader, can you see some of these traits, these personality traits that that person displayed? Just type yes in the chat box if you can. Were you able to recognize any of those? Right. So you were able to see some of those things. And even let's go to the other side of the spectrum. Can you think about your very worst manager that you've ever had? And can you see how they lacked a lot of these things as well? Exactly. So that's definitely one of those things where we need to, without hesitation or even second thought, to be supportive to the people that we are responsible for leading. Okay. So I'm just going to take a little pause here before we go on to some of the things that can actually help you retain your employees. And so I know you guys were discussing in your breakout rooms earlier about the reason that employees are leaving. And now that we've actually discussed the traits of some of the leadership, let me just ask, do you think that having employed some of these traits, or these traits being present within their leadership, just the leadership, not the organization, but within their leader, would have made a difference in that? And unmute yourself if you'd like to share.
It would have made a tremendous impact because by the leader being one that connects with those that they have reporting to them would allow an opportunity for us just to be transparent, but be willing to invest into the mission and contribute as employees. So it would
Right.
have made a big difference.
Right. Absolutely. And Ayana said absolutely, because had some of these things been present, I can even say personally that when I left my last organization, again, I did not leave the organization. I left my leadership. I left my leadership. And for several reasons, but definitely because I did not feel supported. Support was very important. I did not feel that I had support from the top down. And again, I didn't have contact directly with the CEO, but the person that I reported to was clueless, and she did not support. I even sometimes question whether or not she supported the mission of the company itself. I, and you know, unfortunately, that's one of those things you learn later on. But when you're in it and you're that employee, the way that I always relate back to support is to ask myself, if I was in the same position, what is